three, go!
Gary Cooper, how are you? It's Friday. Welcome. What's up?
Hallelujah. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's great to hang out with you. It's been a whopping 21 hours since we last spoke, and I'm great. It's good to hear your voice again.
Yes. Good to hear your voice as well. Good to see you this time.
It's nice. I know. Our call yesterday was a long one and a fun one about lots of cool stuff and some interesting companies. Hope we'll have some of those guys on the show one of these days. It'll be great. But here we are, Boardroom Blitz. What's exciting is this is our first episode ever of this show, the Boardroom Blitz, that's presented by 1871. And interestingly enough, we figured what a better way to start our show than to have the CEO of 1871 with us. But we're not going to introduce her yet. I want to hear from you really quickly, the coolest thing you read or heard this week that I probably should go read.
Ooh, the coolest thing that I read this week that you should read. I have an article right here that I just read about quantum biology.
Okay.
And it turns out that, quantal states can represent DNA. And so,
that's super cool. Which is neat. So I have this theory that we've talked about this before, right? I mean, I think that biology, life is quantum. Everything at the end of the day is quantum and quantum interactions. And so I got to read this paper. Does any of this get into the sort of the fuzzy math associated with the idea that like biological processes at the molecular level and subatomic level are really?
It's a review of our new friend Vadim at Northwestern's work, where they've showed that DNA takes shapes, and those shapes essentially exist in quantal states. And so this is kind of a review of that literature. And if people thought quantum was just computing and just computers on steroids, it turns out that nature exists in quantal states. And now we're starting to figure out how that is and how we can manipulate that with that knowledge.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah, it really is turtles all the way down where turtles equals quantum goodness. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, fun. Well, I can't wait to read the one. So
what about you? What have you read that I should know?
The thing that I just read, so I finished a book this morning that you should read. It fits in with what you do, what I do, what we do in general. It was written by John McNeil, the former CEO of Tesla. He just wrote this book and released it. It's called The Algorithm. It's basically the 5-phase or 5-step algorithm that Elon Musk uses in all of his ventures. And a lot of what's in there for people who are founders, especially multi-time founders who've like gotten punched in the face a bunch of times, the algorithm is instantly understandable, and you can instantly recognize where some companies, maybe even your own, have used it or used parts of it. Yes. But it's written really well, and it's one I definitely going to recommend that people read.
Those 5 things are something that I think about all the time.
Yeah, so, and whether
you're in hardware or whether you're in software or whether
100%, totally. And it's one of those things that's like, now for you, dear listener, you should go read the book. I'm like so tempted to say the 5, but I won't.
Right.
But go read the book. It's great. It's worth your time. And it's nice too, for me, that book like ties directly into the theme of our show, right? Which is the whole goal here is to help to blend real world experience and like tactical advice with a little bit of goofiness here and there to help our listeners, and quite frankly, to help ourselves selfishly to like make better choices, and certainly better choices than we've made and some of our guests have made over time, to help us navigate the really often awkward transition into executive leadership, whether that's as a founder or as a new hire to a growth stage company, or first time looking at going from, going into the C-suite generally. So it's awesome. Well, and I think our guest today is a fabulous example of how this has been done in the real world multiple times over. In fact, when I think about Betsy Ziegler, who was the CEO of 1871 and our dear guest and our dear friend, I think of Betsy as really a living case study in ecosystem leadership. I would say to, institutional reinvention, and really an example of how CEOs make really hard calls when their model no longer works, or have to make those really hard calls when the model no longer works, and then lead an organization through transition. So it's going to be fun to hear about this today from Betsy. And so glad you're with us.
Yeah, and I'll just say before she jumps on, first time founder here when I started Replay, and but now that I've been in the game and seen what's happening in Chicago, it's pretty clear to me like every ecosystem needs a Betsy. Whether it's a academic one or whether it's a city-wide one, you need people who can connect the powerful to the people looking up, and people who can share the same passion and vision as those who are building. And so really excited to get her thoughts on how she got to where she is. But, Betsy is both a noun and verb in my life. And so really excited to have her here.
Betsy, you're the best. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us, Betsy. It's super fun. So why don't we do this? Why don't you give us the 3.5 second, just kidding, 3-minute version of your history. How'd you get to where you are? Let's go back a little bit in time. And,
okay. First of all, thank you for the very kind introduction. Happy to spend my afternoon with the two of you, two of my favorite people. The synthesis of my whole career, at least the last 30 years, is that every day I get to wake up in service of helping somebody else be successful. The last 8 years, I've been the CEO of 1871. I moved into that role from my leadership at Northwestern in the Kellogg School of Management, where I was most recently the Chief Innovation Officer, and before that, the Associate Dean of MBA Programs and Dean of Students. I got to that role after a year of traveling around the globe and thinking hard, following an almost 13-year experience at McKinsey, where I was a partner in the insurance and financial services practice. So doesn't connect at all to higher ed, doesn't connect at all to ecosystem leadership, as you've talked about. We'll talk about reinvention. And I think the inflection point for me really was in 2009 when the crisis hit, and I was serving these life insurance companies, and I was feeling really stuck and in a little box. And I took out my laptop and I wrote down the 40 things I wanted to do by the time I was 40. I was 37 at the time, and about 3 months shy of turning 38. And just that simple act completely changed my orientation of how I viewed my life and my career and my view of ownership and what it means to live a full and happy life. And so from that point on, right, the whole mindset shifted.
Which is super cool. At some point, I want to read that list. I'm assuming you don't have it. It's got to be in your special memory book somewhere.
I do. And then I did 50 by 50, and sadly now I'm on 60 by 60. Of course, I keep changing the number. You don't have to do, it's my choice to keep growing it. But
It's an interesting thing we humans do, is like, oh, now that I'm older, let me add 10 more.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm looking forward to my 120 by 120. That's
exactly. Yeah. And none of them were about work, just to be clear. So I'm happy to share the list at a future date, but like none of them about work. Or about my biggest fear is to not be to not be interesting to myself. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the inspiration of it.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. Well, what's been super fun that so we got to know each other. I wasn't lucky enough to really get to know you well until 2019. And that's when we really first started to interact because of some of the work that we got a chance to do together. But you've been with 1871 now for quite a while and have led it through some really, really interesting times and some really challenging times. Maybe why don't we jump straight into the fun problems, issues, challenges that you've had to tackle in your role as CEO of 1871, transitioning as you did from academic leadership into civic leadership.
Mm-hmm. So I think the transition as a leader wasn't as difficult, both nonprofit orientations, both mission driven, both large communities of people. As the dean of students, I think when the group was interviewing me, they loved that sort of dean of students persona kind of theme. So I think that leadership, how I spend my day and how I invest time in teams and now entrepreneurs and other people in the community is akin to students. I think there was some big business structure challenges that really have tested me, frankly, over the last 8 years. So it was less about how I show up and how I have impact in that kind of setting, but more about what problems am I facing now that I've never faced before.
For sure. Well, and some of those Well, the one that comes to mind for me most is, when people that know 1871 as an organization think back to its origins, it was all about the merchandise mart. It was this place to
Correct.
come together, and obviously that's a model that stopped working um, for lots of different reasons. Let's unpack that a little bit, because I've always viewed 1871 as way more than real estate. Maybe that's because I was doing other stuff in the ecosystem along the way, and I knew what you were doing, what we were doing. It was all very interesting stuff, but I think there's always been this sort of like thought that, 1871 is a place to go work as a founder or whatever, and that's not at all what 1871's ever been. As a CEO or as a leader, civic and otherwise, how do you deal with like that misperception and misconception in the market? Because 1871, particularly under your leadership, you've taken it way beyond Chicago. I mean, this is an international thing at this point. And I think that's something that the world needs to know.
Yeah. So when I first started, the model of 1871 was very much a real estate model. Started in 2012, roughly the same time of a WeWork. Same kind of concept in terms of access to space and paying for private offices or open co-working, which, to your point, Jeremy, like, it was like one of the perks of being a member, but it wasn't the core of the mission of what 1871 was. And so from the minute I got there, I felt a bit of a conflict between delivering on the mission and paying the rent bill, to the point where, like, every day I would walk in, there'd be Rhonda, who you both know, they would have a set of pamphlets on the desk that advertised access to fax machines and like things like we don't even use anymore, and coffee, and like nothing about how we help other people be successful, and only about the physical access and the pressure of paying a fairly large, having 125,000 square feet and needing, like, the number one metric that that many people on the board cared about was how full was it, again, because it funded the business. When the pandemic hit, obviously that changed immediately, and then that allowed our mission to take the lead, because the model didn't work anymore, right? The model wasn't funding the business the same way that it was before. And to be clear, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, but we don't get any external money from the state or the federal government, so we have to, like, survive on our own bottom. And that pandemic shift, where on March 12th we went virtual, and was, I think, where at least my team and the near-in community understood that we were more than just a place.
Yeah, that when the real value of the platform became recognizable, right?
Because they couldn't access the other part. And so what are we? And frankly, our membership grew during that first couple of years of the pandemic. To your point earlier, Jeremy, we have members now from all over the United States and all over the globe, because we created that access for them.
For sure. That's all. And then sorry, Gary, go ahead.
I was curious, Betsy, even before the pandemic, even knowing kind of like maybe in your gut, like, ooh, I'm trying to make, humans and companies successful, especially in the region. Maybe I have a broader view outside the region. But my core business model, the core way that we're keeping the doors open is to have doors, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, even before the pandemic, what were some of the things that you were thinking about doing to potentially evolve the organization, if any? And then obviously the pandemic was kind of a shock, but I was curious, was there already things that you were thinking about?
Yeah, I think there were 2 or 3 things, one or two of them which were put into practice. One was, how do we tell our story, and how do we talk about who we are in the world, and how do I show up in that particular way? As the third CEO of 1871, my predecessors are amazing. We're all 3 very different people, but very committed, to 1871. So I think the first one was really about telling the story and making it really about impact, and making sure that, like, we've got the data to do that. And oh my gosh, wow, we've got hundreds and hundreds of companies that have created jobs and changed the world in positive ways, and continue to scale. And I think that was an opportunity for us that I really tried to lean into. The second one was, we used to have kind of a view of membership that you had to be within 40 miles of downtown Chicago for it to be relevant. And so we had created a virtual membership approach before we even knew that the pandemic could be a thing. We didn't put it into action, but we had done the thinking on it, which allowed us to pivot fast. That was coupled with a complete reorientation of the curricular experience and how the mentors fit in, and who do we have as entrepreneurs in residence, and what does it really mean to swarm an early, a person with an idea, an early stage founder with the resources that we need. We reinvented all of that through the people that I brought onto the team. I think the biggest conflict that showed up in those early days, particularly with members of my team, were choices that we were making on who we allowed in the space to do events. And like so much of the orientation of the work being on events, whether they were connected to innovation or technology or entrepreneurship or not, but they were paying some amount of money to be in our auditorium. And it was like, and kind of like, well, we've got all these people that are trying to work here, but we, by accident turned ourselves into an entrepreneurial petting zoo. And that's like, that doesn't help anybody.
Well, as I say, that's exactly right. And that ends up becoming that is very easy to see as an Achilles heel in hindsight, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which was something that was always interesting to me, coming and participating and seeing stuff there. But like, what's amazing is I think there was, for me, for a very long time, until I got to know the business well, there was this perception that 1871 was just for startups, just for founders, just for guys and gals and people with an idea and nothing else. And then it wasn't until I engaged personally with the community that I realized, well, actually, hold on a second. Like, no, there is something for every stage of company at 1871, from the materials to the opportunities to the connections, literally from the person with the idea sitting in their garage thinking, hey, I'd like to network with some folks that can help me out and find some mentors, to the Fortune 500, where we have a huge percentage of the membership in 1871 are Fortune 500, Fortune 50, Fortune 10 companies, all the way down to the little tiny, one-person startups. I think I'll get these numbers wrong because you obviously know them better than I do. But as I recall, since 1871's founding, like 17 unicorns have come out of 1871, and like $3.5 or $4 billion of venture funding, and tens of thousands of jobs have been created. So it's been a really interesting thing across the whole spectrum of startup through to like late stage company, which is amazing.
Yeah, I would just one little edit on the numbers. 17 unicorns have been part of the membership. Some of those joined after they were, already started. So we don't take credit for anyone that didn't spend at least a couple months of their earliest time with us. So the 17 number is right, but not all of them had their initial start with us. And
they weren't sitting at a desk in front of your office saying,
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
here's my $1 billion idea.
Yeah. And the venture number now, as of a couple of weeks ago, is 7 billion.
Amazing.
So and just north of 20,000 jobs,
which is cool. I mean, I was on the phone earlier today with a company in San Francisco, and they were talking about 1871, right? So again, like this stretch is not just Chicago. It's great. So I say that only because I think, like, you don't lead a business, like you lead a symbol. And I'm curious, is that a privilege or a burden, or just like a super efficient way for you to get to blame, you to like capture blame for everything that's happening?
I really like that frame. I don't think you've said that to me before, but I like that. I think for the most part, it's a privilege. I think there are moments that, and particularly over the last 12 to 15 months, that it's been harder than in other moments, and as you both know, in February of 25, I announced that we were leaving our inaugural home, which, as we talked about before, people put so much value in place, that many people read the first two sentences of the release and not the whole thing. And so for the last year, I've had to spend more time making sure that symbol hasn't lost kind of its luster or shine, that people understand that we're still doing what we've always done. In fact, we're probably doing even better. Right. But it's a different experience.
Totally. I mean, as the person who literally, day couple 2 or 3, Repley was in 1871 from our founding.
Yep.
I first met Betsy. I think, luckily got into this program
Yeah.
called AMP, Advanced Member Program.
Yeah.
And as the former CEO left, the new CEO came, and I remember, Betsy, you in that session, and you were, introducing yourself and kind of talking about what you hoped 1871 would be under your leadership. I actually, as a person who been paying a membership for almost a decade, though there was the place to merchandise prior, I always thought that was kind of a vehicle for community, right? It's like, we're here so I can commune with you. But I think part of the lesson from COVID was we had to figure out how to broadband community. Like, it can't just be in a place. And so I guess, as you think about, well, how do you think about this sense of community and what 1871 is doing? But then as you think about post-COVID and some of the things that have happened that you've had to face as a business, and you talked about the Move in 2025 announcement, how have you thought about kind of keeping and instilling this kind of sense of community no matter where 1871 is?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. First of all, the magic of 1871 has always been and will always be the people. And that group of people continues to grow and expand and, reach almost every corner of the earth. I think we think about community not just about, having people in the same physical space or on a virtual screen, but it's a group of people that are actually invested in helping other people be successful. The sort of the philosophy that a win for one is a win for everyone. And I go on orientation every Monday. I tell the new folks that are coming in that it's my expectation that they're going to make us better, us defined as, it could be my team, could be me, could be the community writ large, but they have, you're going to get what you give. And in this case, give into this group of people agnostic of where they are convening. For the last year, we have shown up. Our events have actually been more oversold in the last 12, 13 months than they were in the previous couple years. We've shown up all over the city in different locations, which I think has been fun for everybody. And then I think back to the comment that Jeremy, you were making, that we follow that whole maturity curve. Like, in theory, you never have to be an alum. Like, the idea of being an alum doesn't really exist in theory, because you're an idea, and then over whatever period of time you become an enterprise player. But how do we with really deep intentionality to, create those rooms so that something important happens? Again, it's not an activity. It's and I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs get invited to a lot of things to spend a lot of time on that may not be value added to the business. Might be important for them as a human, like to have fun and be connected. But we're trying to make more of those rooms and opportunities such that those connections can change the trajectory of the founder that's participating.
I actually want to ask a sort of a bit of a follow-on to that. So again, the majority of the folks not the majority, lots of the folks that Gary and I talk with every single day through our work are people that are thinking about starting something, or they've recognized that they're not necessarily the founder type, but they are a fabulous operator who wants to be involved as a co-founder or be the first operations or VP of finance or whatever for a company, right? And work in the C-suite. So, and obviously you said every day, because you get, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of members and new companies that are forming all the time and walking into you. And I'd imagine that you see a bunch of super ambitious operators that walk in the door and say, hey, I've got this idea, but they've never had a C-suite title and they've never done the thing, whether it's CRO or CEO, right? But so, what do you think like ambitious operators need to learn before they put that C-suite title on their founder's business card, and start going, not after they've already accidentally set the building on fire, right? It's because they've already jumped, right?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think titles are titles, and you can be a leader in lots of different ways. Of course, I think we all agree that. I think what I see most often are people in that regard, like been an operator, have an operator's mindset. They're so focused on the solution and not actually on the problem. And they have a hard time defining like the core problem and why that problem might matter. So I think there's a bit of like, myopic thinking of like, I'm just going to create this. So I've had a number of people that show up and they're like, I'm going to build this app to solve this problem. And I need money right now to build this app. And they haven't thought about, anything. They haven't thought about what talent needs to surround them. They haven't thought about what customer journey is, what the value proposition might be. They just decided that this is the thing that they're going to do and kind of run after. So my view, I think it's less about like functional exposure and more about being able to take a step back and really think about communicating what problem you're solving, why it matters in the world, and have enough. You don't have to be an extrovert, but have enough passion, energy, proof that you're going to run through walls to do it, to bring the best people around you to bring it to life.
Yeah, get the customer discovery done before you show up at my doorstep, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. For sure.
Does anybody, and I think you have to be on that one specifically, like you have to be able to talk to people where they're allowed to say that, you have an ugly baby. Like it's, you can't just like, talk to your mom or your brother who like instinctively is going to say positive things. I'm not sure my brother would. He's a pretty critical thinker, but like, in general, and I think that people are afraid of that, right? They don't want to share that with people because they're afraid that somebody's going to say something negative to them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Betsy, I want your thoughts about, when I think about titling, C-suite, or not in the C-suite, one can view that as an exercise of resume building.
Yeah.
But I want your thoughts on this, which is, I actually think it's about what responsibility are you willing to stomach and your vision of how to execute. So what I think about in kind of C-suite titling is like, that person right there is responsible to do something, right? Whether it gets done or not, or the quality is not, that's another question. But there's a sense of, I'm gonna sweep the floors, I'm gonna create the strategic plan, I'm gonna and then I'm gonna sweep the floors again. And especially in your job at 1871, can you talk a little bit about, like, compared to your customers that used to serve at McKinsey, who might have a C-suite title, having a C-suite title, like you think about like that kind of responsibility execution bit a little bit, or kind of unfurl that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the most important thing for me after I hire somebody is their ownership and their view of accountability. And some people on my team have more autonomy than others. That makes the people that have less makes sometimes them frustrated. But they have to earn the right to have. So the more aligned we are, the more autonomous they get. I think Keith Raboy has this framework around barrels and ammunition when he thinks about people, and so I'm trying to I think about that a lot inside my own team, right? Like those again, regardless of title, and then I'll talk a little bit about career pathing because we're such a small team that it's hard. The person who can go from an idea from conception to execution and like drive and go all the way through and think about the second and third and fourth level details, and they're not waiting to be told what to do, right? They're not waiting for permission, they're actually just taking it. And again, if we're aligned on what the goal is, then run. I don't, if we're not aligned, then I worry about people just running. On the titling, we have about 20 people on the team. I have 2 people that report to me that have a chief in front of them on the product side, on the experience side. In a bigger company, they wouldn't have those titles. In our world, though, they are my right and left arm, and they control, each has kind of half of the rest of the team. And so my job is to help give them exposure and experience such that when they do leave 1871, which everybody will, because we're too small for a lifelong career, that they're ready for that next role, regardless of the title, but that they're ready to perform at that higher level.
Right.
Yeah, really cool. Well, related to that, right? So, and Gary and I talk about this a lot with the companies that we work with. We're always worried for them. We're always worried about them. We're always trying to help them. That's what you do, right? And we talk a lot, and oftentimes I'm wondering, like, generally speaking, whether you say you go to Kellogg for your MBA, right, or whatever, and throughout the course of your time at Kellogg or Booth or Harvard or Stanford, wherever, like you take the entrepreneurial track, like you learn a bunch of stuff, tactical, strategic stuff, how to think about ideas, how to actually do the thing of starting a company, how to think about entrepreneurial selling, all those things, right? Which is super, super valuable. So I said as preamble to say, like, do you ever feel like, and I'm given your background both in academia and here, do you ever feel like maybe when we as coaches and mentors and advisors to startups, do we over teach strategy and under teach like emotional regulation, conflict, hiring, firing, like operating cadence, actual ways to build a pilot program, like the 5 steps to getting customer calls, like all the really, really tactical in the weedsy, like business stuff, right? What do you think?
Yeah. So I think the 2 most important things that higher education fails at in terms of education, and then I'll talk about the nitty gritty, but the 2 themes, in my opinion, are nobody teaches anybody about how to define the problem. And it's like the most underrated, it's a super important management skill. Nobody does it. Everyone wants to jump to solutions. We don't teach that. And the second thing we don't teach is influence, and how do you drive change, and how do you make positive change happen. And then if you unpack that, particularly on the influence side, people come out. I'll talk about one of my alma maters, like, they walk out of Harvard Business School and they're like, well, I'm a Harvard Business School grad, so I'm gonna, I've read, 800 cases over the last 2 years. So like, I put myself in the protagonist's shoes. I obviously know what to do. And I think there's a real reticence for many to like get their hands dirty and like actually do the real work. And so I think part of it is teaching it, but part of it is probably exposure, and like, how do we create more experiential learning where they're like doing the job before they have the job, while they're in school. Like Gary, you made the comment earlier, like, you take out the garbage and you set the strategy of the organization, and you lead the fundraising rounds. And, I do the same, like, I'm cleaning up after events, whatever, like it's full on. And I think that it's glamorous to say you're a founder. It's cool. I don't think most people really understand how hard it is. So the more we can help people understand that when they're on that educational journey with that aspiration, I think the better.
I agree. I also think that like when you, and by the way, I have to say one thing, because I know if our buddy Mark Tevy listens to this, he's going to say, no. At Booth, we teach this class. It's called Entrepreneurial Discovery.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Okay,
but that having said that, what I would say too is that, to me, I've always looked at like doing the thing itself and all the hard things, all the nitty gritty stuff is like really what teaches you ultimately how to be that executive you want to be, right? You can't learn how to fire and hire and manage conflict and build constructive, like healthy friction across teams unless you actually do it a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's also why a lot of times I meet early stage founders, like, and they've never done any of that stuff. And it's like, hey, your idea might be super rad, but like you are never going to get funded unless you find a team of people that have done all those things to help you do that, support you. I think that's one of the biggest and hardest things for a lot of people to sort of like realize is, oh, the best idea rarely wins. It's the best execution and best marketing. That's what wins, right? And then who can raise the most money?
Yeah, I mean, if I just like when I was 21, I got a job at GE, like a training program, and the first 6 months, I walked in the door and I was leading 25 people that were in a call center environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was literally no idea what I was doing. And the first 3 weeks they put me on the phone, and I had to be the collecting past due payments or answering customer service or whatever it might be. And it was super hard. And so I feel really lucky that in my first like 90 days post college being employed, that I learned that lesson that like you have to like really understand how to do those things. That allowed me to be a better leader, coach to those folks. I had to fire people. Like the first time I fired somebody, it went really poorly, and then HR turned on me. I mean, it was like does that so like now there's always two people in the room, like like just things that you learn through kind of being trying and kind of maybe falling down or certainly having some bruises along the way.
Betsy, this reminds me, just an aside, this reminds me of Jensen Wang, the CEO founder
Sure.
of NVIDIA,
Yeah.
gave a talk at Stanford that got a lot of press, which was basically titled, I Wish You a Lot of Pain, a Life of Pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he said, through pain, you gain resilience. And resilience is the one thing that helps you with execution and success. And so it was a very funny phrase, but he said, I wish upon to you years and decades of pain.
Yeah. I agree with it. And if you look back over the last kind of 15 months that I've had, like it's been pain. It's been a lot of joy, but it's also been pain. And so like I have learned, I have built like an internal fortitude that I that I will never bet against myself.
Yeah.
Which is what what I'd say idealistic founders have, the first time founders, but like second and third time founders, seasoned executives have. They have this like, I've gotten through something before. This might be new to me, but what's not new to me is trying to get through something. And that becomes a really important superpower, I think, whether in an executive role or whether in a founder role.
I think it ties directly back to your comment about ownership, Gary, to be honest, like, and then sort of a theme around pattern recognition, like I'm old now. And so I've just seen so many things so many times that I can identify a pattern and help people steer. But I think that ownership is really, if I didn't care so much, I would have, or felt accountable to the transitory pattern of 1871 over the last couple of years. Like we wouldn't be having this conversation. And, not everybody signs up, whether you're the most senior leader or others, like to deal with that.
And also to have important impact, I think, almost by definition, that's not going to be easy. It's probably going to be painful. Like it's hard for me to think. I mean, Jensen's story is a 20-year story. SpaceX is a 20X story.
Yep.
Even 1871. How long has 1871 existed?
Just over 14 years.
Yep. So there's this like long tail. If you're going to have $7 billion of raise and 20,000 jobs, it's not it's a 14-year overnight success in some ways, with a lot of pain throughout.
But again, that's the glamour part. Like the media tell stories in a certain way that make it sound like it's this, overnight success glamour thing,
Of course. Well, not only that, I mean, like, what we see oftentimes in the media are the exceptions to the rule, not the rule. Right? And that's how it's structured, right? So, I share this statistic all the time with with folks that I work with, and companies that I start talking with and I'm diligencing and whatnot. It's like, it takes, this is as of late last year, and I think the data's on PitchBook. You can go check it out, and maybe we can send a link to it or something. But like 17 years is the average time it takes to exit a company, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I would say that totally tracks with the companies that I've invested in that have exited, the companies that I've started that have had complete exits. That's how much it takes 15 to 20 years to get it done. And so what's amazing about that, if you're a young founder, if you're a first-time founder and you walk in the door saying, okay, I'm going to do this for the next 20 years, number one, it's those guys and gals who usually win in the end because they've got the stick-to-itiveness. But it's also something that's interesting is you get to a certain point with a startup, with a company where you might not be the right person for the job anymore, or you may have outgrown that thing, right? You still love the ecosystem, you still love the thing, you still love the industry, you still love your people, but for your personal growth, you need to do something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is also totally fine, totally fair, and totally great.
Completely.
But yeah, I think, the most naivety you see is when someone comes in and says, I'm going to start this thing and I'm going to sell it for $1 billion in a year. Like, okay, that happens one in every 15,000 companies,
Yeah.
but it's probably not going to happen. So let's do the work.
I have a couple of those. I do office hours on Friday afternoons and with founders, and have for, I guess, 8 years. And there's a couple that have been like, this is going to be the fastest growing company that's ever existed. I'm like, okay,
Cool. Good luck.
great.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we have a segment that we like, that we're again, first time we're doing this, but we're gonna guinea pig you for this segment, and we're gonna use it every other time. It's called Boardroom Blitz after the show itself.
Okay.
So what we do, and Gary, you have a link on your phone. I think you can generate random ones too if your phone's on.
Yeah.
So
Turn
Gary and I are gonna
of respect for our guests.
Oh, nice. So Gary's gonna turn his phone on. Then we're gonna go back and forth generating random Boardroom Blitz questions.
Okay.
So we have this bank of 10 legitimate but also kind of cheeky questions that we're going to randomly, I'm going to initiate the blitz, and I'm going to come up with the first random question for you about life as life an executive, and then we'll just have some fun with you, put you on the spot.
Get it, my blitz as well.
Yeah, baby, there it is. All right, so first question.
Mm-hmm.
First question, and I'm babbling because I'm reading it and making myself laugh. All right, what's the best piece of career advice you've given to someone else that you wish you had followed yourself?
I think it is, you have to ask for what you want.
And then you didn't ask?
You have to ask for what you want. You have to, and particularly when you're younger, and you can't like if your circumstances that you're a single person with no children and your colleagues have children or are married or have other, often I see people saying, well, their priorities are more important than mine, and so I'm not going to ask for what I need because they need those things. And I think, and I certainly did that as a young person, and that's what it would be that, and then I would remind them that the response to the bounce is more important than the bounce. People don't remember the mistake; they remember how you responded to it, and mistakes are hit harder when you're younger and you don't have perspective. So I threw in 2.
I love it. That's awesome.
Okay, here's mine. Betsy Ziegler.
Yes.
What's the most corporate BS phrase you've ever used in a meeting, and do you regret it?
I was a consultant for almost 13 years, so there's a lot of phrases that I used,
I already thinking of one.
Circle back and double down, and I don't know. I mean, they show up as memes now. I don't live with lots of regrets, so I don't think I regret it per se. But it's funny now when I hear it. Yeah. I'm like, I was interviewing somebody the other day who for a role, and they basically like gave me coaching about how to handle a specific situation on my team. It was not a question that I asked, and I literally was like, yeah, great, thank you. Like I'm not hiring a consultant. I'm looking for a particular skill set. So my radar is way up now. I try to make sure I don't do it, but I don't think I regret it, but I've done it hundreds of times. Yeah.
To all my BC friends, delete. Let's double click.
Double click. Yeah. I still occasionally say double click. Yeah.
Oh, I want that one to go away. Thank you for saying that, Gary. Please, internet world, erase that.
Yeah.
All right, here's the one for you. What's one business book you actually finished and think that everyone else should too?
Okay, so I'm like a total geek fangirl for the folks that call themselves the Category Pirates. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Love the book.
The book, the Category Pirate Handbook. I should get affiliate fees because I've suggested it's for so many people, but the idea that focus on how you're different versus how you compare and compete with others. And I if you look at the book, like I've underlined almost every word. I love the Category Pirates. They've helped me reframe so much of how I think about the world. So that would be the one I'd like go to Amazon immediately and get, or your local bookstore.
I haven't read that one, so I gotta read that one.
Yeah.
I think I have a copy for you then, great. Okay. It's sitting right there on my shelf. Like,
it's the best. Yeah. And then the Category Pirate folks, like they have little short versions, and they have YouTubes and podcasts and stuff. Like there's a whole bunch of like bite size, like really helpful bite size points.
Yeah, they've kind of done what the Strategizer series done. They've kind of blown it out. Yeah. It's like EOS, Pirates, and Strategizer. Those are all like really good frameworks to mess around with for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Gary, do you have another one?
I do, and I just really want to show the graphic on this one. But this one, Betsy Ziegler, if you could pick one generation to run your company for a year, who would you pick and why?
By generation, you mean Boomer, Zoom,
we mean
Boomer,
boomers,
Zoom,
Gen X, Millennials, Gen Zs. I guess there's also Alpha now.
Are they in the workforce already? In their 20s?
I don't know.
No, I think not, because my youngest
Charlie's
son
Alpha.
is the last.
I think they're all at YC.
my youngest son is 15, and he's still a Z. So I think it's the kids that were born after 2010. They're the alphas, right?
Okay.
My son Charlie, who you both know, age 13, believes that he is in the 1 year that isn't included in any generations, which he thinks is very special and is holding on to. I actually think he's an alpha, but he has decided that he sort of stands alone.
Charlie, we love you, but you are an alpha.
Exactly. So I'm in the forgotten group with the Gen Xers. People kind of forget about us. I don't know.
We're the latchkey kids, man. Come on, X.
I think it's important to have. This is probably a cheat answer, but I think it's important to have a representation across. Like, I want the energy and the enthusiasm and like the curiosity and the wide-eyedness of like the millennials and the Gen Z, but I want the pattern recognition and the confidence of an Xer to complement. So I guess, and then the boomers, we always can learn from the boomers also.
You don't have to be super inclusive in this answer, Betsy.
I know you're being super PC.
We can uninclude the boomers.
If gun to the head, I'd probably say probably millennial. But I think there's some value of the Xers. Like, I think there's some, I think there's value there that I would, I'm handing the keys over,
I will say this. This was funny. I'm not gonna say who said this, but you guys both know her. And actually, Betsy, this was at a board meeting right before a board meeting started that you and I were in, maybe 6 months ago. And I don't think the person realized that we were on Zoom with like lots of people in the background too. And right before the meeting started, this person sat next to a boomer, who's a very like influential, very powerful boomer, and said something to the effect of, I probably shouldn't swear as much as I normally swear on the pod, but was like, I swear to XYZ, if I could, I would fire every person in X, not Gen X, but in this category, and hire everybody I could possibly find in this category and never turn back. And I'll tell you, it didn't land well.
Gary, we should start a segment of who said this.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, because I can guess who that was.
Yeah, exactly. That would be pretty funny. I like that idea. That's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to ask you one more, okay?
Okay.
And then we'll put you off the Border Blitz hot seat. And it randomly generated one you already had, so I'm not going to ask for that one. But I will say, oh gosh, it's generating the same ones.
I have one.
Oh, grab it. Go.
Okay. Betsy Ziegler. So mine is, what's the dumbest thing you believed about the C-suite before you got there?
I don't know. Dumb. Probably. I don't. Because I had so much exposure with McKinsey, but I don't know if I would call it dumb, but let's say that I think that I probably thought a lot about being in the C-suite was directing traffic and not actually doing the work. Now, I mean, it's often said like people say, what do you do? And I say, well, I actually don't, do anything. I help other people do things. And, Jeremy, you and I have talked about like working on business or in the business, but I think I probably had like a view of, the CEO sort of directing traffic and figuring out what to do, but not what I've learned is I think most of my job is helping people figure out why we're doing it. And that's the shit. I don't know if that counts as dumb though. I don't know. But we'll put it in that category.
Well, I guess it's dumb if you thought your job was to like sit around in your office with your feet up on the desk. And
true. Yeah. Just like,
versus actually teaching people the importance and being a mission carrier culture. Yeah. Either way,
you go do X, exactly. I guess that's, it's not I guess maybe I was thinking about dumb as like embarrassing, but it's not, not embarrassing, but yeah, I think there's one other question that I think you guys told that I'd like you to answer, but if it gets randomly generated, but
it's randomly generated. Go ahead. What question should we be asking you that we didn't?
The song one.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Yes. Well, jump right in. You read it for me and give us your answer.
Okay. Make sure I can read it the right.
Well, I can pull it up here too.
I keep pushing the blitz just so I can get to this. I don't know why I didn't fulfill that in my life, right? But I'm just trying to see how many blitzes do I have to hit to get to the question.
It's like how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I mean, again, I know you're doing the blitz, and there was a tiny little preview ahead of time, so.
No, it's great. I was hoping this would come up too.
The question is, and maybe you guys can answer this too. Maybe I'll answer it and you guys answer too. If your leadership style had a theme song, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Betsy, what's your theme song?
So mine is "Don't Stop Believin'" by Journey.
There you go, little Journey. Can't beat that. That's
and it's partly because it's also my son's favorite song to sing. So it's partly that, and also because I think it's a
great song to sing.
It is a great song.
Yeah,
it is a great song.
It's a karaoke too. It's like you get the whole.
Exactly. Everybody joins in. Yeah.
Whatever note you're on and whatever octave you're in, let's just go with it. Don't stop.
Charlie sang it at his fourth grade talent, like the elementary school talent show, and he had only had 90 seconds, so it was a portion of the song. And he was doing a solo, but the background music went out like 20 seconds in, and he, you could see him like stunned for like a second or two. And the crowd started singing, and then he like picked it back up and finished. It was like a really proud parent moment that he didn't get frightened by that, and he actually felt it. But to your point, Gary, like everybody knows the songs, so they're just gonna chime in.
Just butts it. Can I share? It's totally random, but can I share my two favorite Charlie song moments?
Oh, sure.
So
I think I know one of them at least.
Well, yeah, you're gonna know both of them because this was such a special thing. So moment one was. Well, so actually, the best one was when Charlie and I got to sing together in a show. He sang "Hungry Like the Wolf," and I told Charlie before going out on the stage. So he did sound check with us and stuff before the show, and then I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be here with you, singing side by side. Don't worry about it. I got your back." And then I pulled a total like, "Nope, throw him off the cliff" thing. So as soon as the song started and we brought him on stage, because like, hey, who blah blah blah. Here comes Charlie. He's gonna sing this awesome. He's gonna sing a Duran Duran song, "Hungry Like the Wolf." And I looked at him and I said, "Is your mic on?" He goes, "Yep." And I said, "Awesome." He started singing and I walked off the stage. And so but he crushed it. It was super fun.
It was super fun. Super fun to watch. Yeah.
The second one that actually brought tears to my eyes was on my birthday a few years ago, I think, maybe 2 years ago. I get this text from Betsy and it's a video from Charlie, and he's singing. One of my favorite bands is Green Day. And Charlie's singing "Holiday" off of the American Idiot album, and I was like, "Oh, that's freaking awesome!" And he was singing a cappella, just crushing it for me. It was great. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know Charlie was in the arts.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
This is what happens when you're not quite Z and not quite Alpha. He is
not quite Z and Alpha. That middle year.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome.
All right, if we have time, tell me your song. But if we don't, I understand.
I'll just pass it to Jeremy. I have to think about this.
That's a great question. I am going to. The problem is, there's too many songs that are awesome. Okay.
I got mine.
Go ahead.
I got a one. But there's probably more to your point. I was just listening to it. "Sign Still Delivered."
Oh,
that's a good one. That's a great song. Yeah. We were talking about Stevie right when we got on the phone this afternoon, and man, oh man. Yeah, these are two great songs, guys. I don't know if I think I'm going to deflect, and I'll have to answer it some other time because I've got like 14 songs in my head. And I'm thinking about the lyrics of each of them. I'm like, okay, but that one's awesome, except there's too many F-bombs, or that one's really cool too, but it's a little too grungy, or So I'm gonna have to come back.
You know what I would, because Jeremy, I was with your same thought pattern. I'm glad Betsy put us on the spot. This actually shows us. I stop the algorithm of looking at the lyrics in my mind, and I just go, what song creates a feeling in me that I want to create for teams, for my customer.
Yeah.
That's one of the songs. Ryan Still Delivers one of the songs. How I feel when I hear that song.
It's a great song too. Yeah, super fun. All right. Well, I promise next time we meet, next time the three of us are together, I will have a song. And I will sing it for you.
Yeah, sing it. Yeah, you'll sing it.
We'll karaoke together wherever we're at. We might be at a lunch or a coffee or in the middle of a meeting somewhere. We're just going to break out singing the song and see what happens. Okay. Awesome. Well, Betsy, gosh dang it. It's been so much fun hanging out with you today. We really appreciate you joining us for our first episode. And we're so grateful for the partnership with 1871.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Have a great time and interview and learn and grow in our skill sets and help the community to learn and grow in theirs as well. So we really appreciate the partnership. It's great.
Thank you.
Big
Thank you both.
Big hugs, Betsy.
Big hugs. Yeah, big hugs.
Thank you for everything.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Awesome.
Boardroom Blitz is proudly presented by 1871, the world's leading nonprofit community dedicated to helping founders, innovators, and growth stage companies thrive. Hosted by Gary Cooper and Jeremy Bacon. Produced by Alex Bacon. Original theme music by Jibbit. Special thanks to our guests for sharing their hard-earned lessons with us. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who's building something worth leading. Thanks.